A black woman? Green beret? Come on! Officer Reeves laughed as the aisle went silent. Maya didn't argue. She only gripped the scratched brass coin on her canvas bag and said, "You don't have to believe me for it to be true." Then her phone vibrated. "Mom, parking now. 4 minutes." Reeves kept smiling. He had no idea what was already approaching those glass doors. The running shoes sat beneath a cone of bright white light like something too expensive to touch. Maya Brooks turned one of them over in her hands and looked at the price tag for the third time. $180. She had known the price before walking into the South Park sporting goods store, but seeing the numbers printed beneath the sleek white sole still made her stomach tighten. 4 months of setting aside $10 here, 15 there. 4 months of walking past coffee shops on campus, carrying sandwiches from home, and picking up extra evening hours wherever she could fit them around nursing classes and her volunteer shifts. Rachel Torres leaned against the display beside her. "You've been staring at those shoes like they're going to propose to you." Maya smiled despite herself. "For $180, they better come with a ring." Rachel laughed. For a few seconds, everything felt ordinary. Saturday afternoon sunlight poured through the mall skylights beyond the store entrance, turning the polished tile outside into pale sheets of gold. Inside, soft music played above rows of expensive athletic clothes. New leather, rubber soles, perfume from nearby shoppers, and the faint smell of coffee from the mall corridor blended together in the air. Maya looked down at herself. Faded gray sweatshirt, jeans that had survived 2 semesters, scuffed sneakers she had owned since high school. Her worn canvas shoulder bag hung against her hip, the fabric softened by years of use. A scratched brass coin dangled from one of the straps, tapping gently against the metal buckle whenever she moved. She did not look like most of the customers browsing around them. That had never bothered her, until someone decided it should. Rachel picked up the second shoe. "Your mom still picking us up?" "Yeah. She texted earlier." Maya returned the shoe carefully to its box. "She's coming from Fort Bragg. Today? She had some ceremony." Rachel blinked. "Wait, I thought she was still doing army stuff." Maya gave her a sideways look. "She is. I mean real army stuff." Maya laughed softly. "What does that even mean?" Rachel shrugged. "I don't know. You never really talk about it." That was true. Angela Brooks had taught her daughter early that some parts of military life belonged at home and nowhere else. Maya knew enough to understand why her mother disappeared for long periods, why calls sometimes came at strange hours, why certain questions were answered with a smile and a change of subject. So Maya rarely talked about it, but Rachel had known her for nearly 2 years. "Mama's Special Forces," Maya said simply. "Green Beret. Master Sergeant Angela Brooks." A laugh came from behind them. Not Rachel's. Not friendly. Maya turned. A white man stood near a rack of Carolina Panthers shirts several steps away. He looked to be in his late 40s, broad through the shoulders, gray beginning at his temples. He wore blue jeans, a dark Panthers t-shirt, and expensive-looking casual shoes. A police badge was clipped openly to his belt. He was staring straight at Maya. His smile widened when he saw that he had her attention. "Your mother?" he said. Maya said nothing. The man chuckled again. "Special Forces?" The laugh carried farther this time. A couple near the next display glanced over. Rachel straightened. Maya felt something cold move through her stomach. "Yes," she said. The man shook his head as though she had just told him her mother flew helicopters on Mars. "Come on." Maya's fingers tightened around the edge of the shoebox. "I'm sorry?" He stepped a little closer. "Daniel Reeves," he said, tapping 2 fingers against the badge on his belt. 20 years in law enforcement. Worked around plenty of military people. Maya had not asked who he was. That seemed not to matter. Reeves looked from her worn sweatshirt to her old sneakers, then back to her face. "And you're telling me your mother is Special Forces?" "Yes." "Green Beret?" "Yes." He smiled again. This time there was nothing amused in it. "A black woman?" The words landed quietly. The meaning did not. Rachel's face changed. A woman inspecting running socks several feet away stopped moving. Maya felt heat crawl up the back of her neck. Reeves gave a little shrug. "Green Beret? Come on, For a second, Maya could hear everything at once. The music overhead, a cartwheel squeaking near the register, a scanner beeping, someone opening a cardboard shoebox. Then she heard the silence forming around her. People were listening. She looked at Reeves. "My mother is Master Sergeant Angela Brooks." She kept her voice even. It took more effort than she wanted him to know. Reeves studied her as though he were waiting for the joke to reveal itself. Then he laughed again. "Okay." Rachel stepped forward. "She's not joking." "I didn't say she was. You're laughing at her." Reeves raised his hand slightly. "I'm just saying I've been around long enough to know when something doesn't add up." Maya's jaw tightened. What doesn't add up? That question seemed to please him. He looked around briefly, aware now that several shoppers had stopped pretending not to listen. "Well, let's be realistic." Maya waited. Reeves did not finish immediately. He let his eyes travel over her clothes again. The worn canvas bag, the scuffed shoes, then back to her face. "People tell stories," he said, "especially when they want to sound important." Maya felt Rachel move closer beside her. "She doesn't need to sound important," Maya said. "No?" "No." Reeves tilted his head. Maya's voice lowered. "My mother doesn't need strangers to believe in her." For the first time, his smile weakened. Only for a moment. Then his eyes dropped toward Maya's canvas bag. Something there had caught his attention. The old brass challenge coin. Its edges were scratched. Years of fingers had worn the surface dull in places, but the Special Forces insignia was still visible beneath the overhead lights. Maya noticed where he was looking. Her hand moved instinctively to the coin. Her mother had given it to her after returning from an overseas assignment years earlier. Angela had never explained much about where it came from. She had only closed Maya's fingers around it and said, "Keep this somewhere safe." On the reverse were two engraved initials, a B. Beneath them sat a tiny serial number, so worn that Maya herself could barely read it anymore. Reeves's eyes narrowed. Then his expression changed. It was the look of a man who believed he had finally found the evidence he needed. "Well," he said slowly, "what do we have here?" Maya curled her fingers protectively around the brass. "Nothing that belongs to you." Rachel glanced from Reeves to Maya. The shoppers around them had gone almost completely quiet. Reeves stepped closer. His badge caught the light. His hand came up, and before Maya could pull the bag away, Officer Daniel Reeves reached toward the scratched brass coin as though he had just found proof that everything she said was a lie. Reeves's fingers closed around the brass coin before Maya could pull her bag away. The touch lasted only a second, but something inside her tightened. "Please don't touch that." Her voice was quiet. Reeves either did not hear the warning or decided it did not matter. He lifted the coin by its edge and turned it toward the white ceiling lights. Up close, it did not look impressive. The brass had darkened around the grooves. One edge carried a shallow dent. Fine scratches crossed the Special Forces insignia on the front, and years of being handled had worn the raised lettering smooth. To Reeves, it looked old. To Maya, it was one of the few things in the world she could not replace. "I said, don't touch it." This time Rachel heard the change in Maya's voice. So did the people around them. Reeves glanced at Maya, almost surprised that she had challenged him, then turned the coin over. Two initials were engraved on the back. A B. Beneath them was a tiny line of numbers, so faded that Reeves had to tilt the coin toward the light. "Well, look at this." He smiled. Maya reached for it. Reeves held it away for another moment. "Where'd you get this?" "My mother gave it to me." "Of course she did." Rachel stepped closer. "Give it back." Reeves finally released it. The coin struck the metal buckle on Maya's bag with a sharp little click. Maya caught it immediately and wrapped her fingers around it. For a moment, she was no longer standing beneath the cold white lights of an expensive store. She was remembering her mother's hand. Angela had placed that coin in Maya's palm after returning from an overseas assignment years earlier. She had looked exhausted that evening, though she tried not to show it. There had been a weariness behind her eyes that Maya had learned not to question. Angela had folded Maya's fingers around the coin. "Keep this somewhere safe." That was all she had said. Maya had. Through moves, hard months, college applications, late-night study sessions, and days when money disappeared faster than it came in. The coin had stayed with her. Reeves saw none of that. He saw an object he could use. "You know these things are everywhere, right?" he said. Maya looked at him. "What things?" "Challenge coins, military souvenirs." He nodded toward her bag. "You can buy them online. Surplus stores sell them too." "That one wasn't bought." Reeves chuckled. "Sure." The word hurt more than it should have. Not because Maya cared what he believed. At least, that was what she told herself. But there was something uniquely humiliating about watching a stranger take a private piece of her family's history, hold it under fluorescent lights, and reduce it to a cheap souvenir. Maya fastened the coin back against the strap. "Are you finished?" Reeves raised his eyebrows. Rachel stared at him. "Seriously. What is your problem?" "My problem? You walked over here. Nobody was talking to you." Reeves's expression hardened slightly. "I heard something ridiculous," I reacted. "You heard something you didn't believe?" Maya said. "That's different." A few feet away, James Walker had stopped examining the pair of work boots in his hands. At 61, James had learned the value of appearing uninterested. He had spent 27 years working in Army logistics, much of it supporting units whose movements were discussed only when necessary. He knew uniforms. He knew insignia. He knew the difference between the military souvenirs sold near bases and the objects that traveled home in pockets after assignments nobody discussed over dinner. And he knew coins. The moment Reeves had turned Maya's coin over, James had seen the marking beneath the initials. Not clearly. Not all of it. But enough. His fingers tightened around the work boot. He took one step forward, then stopped. James looked at Reeves's badge, then at the people around them, then at Maya. Something old and uncomfortable passed across his face. He lowered his eyes. Maya noticed. That almost hurt worse than Reeves's laughter. James had seen something. She was sure of it. For half a second, she had thought he might speak. Instead, he returned the work boot to its box. Silence had chosen another side. Reeves leaned casually against the edge of the display. "I'm trying to save you some embarrassment." Maya almost laughed at the absurdity of it. "You're the one embarrassing me." "No, I'm the one telling you how this looks." "To who?" Reeves gestured vaguely toward the store. Maya followed the motion. A woman holding a shopping bag immediately looked away. A man near the running jackets pretended to study a price tag. Two customers stood with their phones in their hands. Maya could not tell whether they were texting or recording. Nobody met her eyes for long. Reeves seemed encouraged by their silence. "People know what Special Forces means," he said. "It's not just some job title you throw around." "I know. Do you?" "Yes." "You ever been to Fort Bragg?" Maya stared at him. Rachel muttered, "You've got to be kidding me." Reeves ignored her. "You know what kind of training those people go through?" "My mother does." That answer drew another short laugh. Maya felt the coin beneath her fingertips. "Master Sergeant Angela Brooks," she said again. Reeves shook his head. "You keep repeating the name like that proves something." "It proves I know my mother's name." Someone nearby coughed to hide a laugh. This time it was not directed at Maya. Reeves heard it. His jaw shifted. What had begun as amusement was becoming something else. He needed to win now. Maya could see it. That realization frightened her more than the laughter. A man who was joking could stop. A man who needed to prove himself right might keep going until someone else paid the price. Reeves folded his arms. "All right, Maya." She stiffened. She had never told him her name. Then she remembered Rachel had used it earlier. Reeves continued. "If your mother is really a Green Beret, tell me what unit she's with." Maya said nothing. "What group?" Silence. "Where was she deployed?" Maya's thumb moved slowly across the scratches in the brass coin. Angela's voice came back to her. "Not everything people ask deserves an answer." "Where?" Reeves repeated. "I'm not discussing that." His expression brightened. There it was. The opening he had been waiting for. Rachel shook her head. "That doesn't mean anything. It means plenty." "No, it doesn't." Reeves looked past Rachel toward Maya. What missions? Maya's pulse quickened. I said I'm not discussing it. Why not? Because it's none of your business. A murmur moved through the aisle. Reeves straightened. His voice stayed conversational, but the edge beneath it sharpened. Funny how the details disappear when somebody asks questions. Maya felt the humiliation return in a hot wave. She wanted to tell him everything she could. She wanted to describe the mornings Angela came home before sunrise and sat alone at the kitchen table before waking her. She wanted to tell him about the neatly stored uniform pieces, the careful phone calls, the nights Maya had watched headlights through the apartment blinds waiting for a car that arrived hours late. But proving Angela to Reeves would mean giving him something he had never earned. Maya would not do it. Across the aisle, James Walker slowly raised his eyes again. He looked at the coin. This time he focused on the faded serial number. His face changed. The number belonged to a run he remembered, a very small one. James opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Reeves was already talking again. Let me guess. Classified? Maya looked directly into his eyes. I didn't say that. But convenient, isn't it? No. Your mother is supposedly special forces, but you can't tell me the unit, the mission, the deployment. I said I won't. Reeves smiled. Same difference. No, Maya said. It isn't. The store seemed colder now. Rachel moved close enough that their shoulders touched. The tiny contact helped. Maya took a slow breath. Then another. Her mother had taught her something else. You did not have to become loud just because somebody else became cruel. Reeves looked around at the silent shoppers as though they were a jury. You see what I mean? Nobody answered. That did not stop him from treating their silence as agreement. Maya looked toward James one more time. He was staring at the brass coin. His lips moved. This time she heard him. Barely. That wasn't sold in any store. Maya's heart skipped. Reeves did not seem to hear. He was already stepping closer, preparing another question. But James Walker knew something. And for the first time since the laughter began, Maya realized the scratched little coin on her bag might hold a truth even Reeves could not talk his way around. For one brief second, Maya almost asked James what he meant. Then Reeves spoke again. Nothing to say? His voice pulled her back beneath the store's hard white lights. Maya looked at him, but her mind had gone somewhere warmer. 2 nights earlier, rain had washed Charlotte in gray. Morningstar Community Kitchen sat between a laundromat and a boarded-up pharmacy on the west side, 5 blocks from the apartment complex where Maya and Angela had once lived. The building was old brick, the front sign faded by summer heat and winter storms. But every evening, the windows glowed yellow against the dark. Inside, steam clouded the kitchen glass. Metal spoons struck serving trays. Coffee poured. Adults came through the doors carrying every kind of exhaustion. Maya volunteered there 3 evenings a week after classes. Nobody paid her. She never asked. That Thursday, she had tied on a plain brown apron and spent nearly 4 hours moving between the serving line and dining room, filling plates with baked chicken, rice, green beans, and cornbread. Walter Price, 64, had been there that evening, sitting alone near the far wall with a cup of coffee cooling between his hands. Maya knew him only as a quiet veteran who always thanked the volunteers twice. Evelyn Carter, 68, arrived shortly before closing. She was soaked from the rain. Her coat clung to her shoulders, and water had darkened the hem of her slacks. She tried to smile when Maya greeted her, but her face had gone pale. Ms. Carter? I'm all right, sweetheart. She was not. Maya noticed the slight sway before Evelyn did. She crossed the room quickly and caught the older woman by the elbow before she could lose her balance. Sit down. Oh no, I don't want to cause trouble. You're not causing anything. Maya guided her into a chair. She brought water first, then a plate, then sat beside her while the last few volunteers stacked trays in the kitchen. Evelyn stared at the food. I missed lunch. That explains some of it. I had an appointment across town. In this weather? Evelyn gave a tired laugh. Buses don't care about weather. Neither of them noticed Angela arrive. Master Sergeant Angela Brooks had come straight from Fort Bragg in civilian clothes that evening, carrying 2 grocery bags filled with coffee, canned vegetables, and cleaning supplies for the kitchen. She set them down quietly. No announcement. No photographs. No need for anyone to know who had paid for them. Angela walked over and crouched beside Evelyn's chair. You feeling dizzy? A little? Any chest pain? No. Short of breath? No. Angela looked at Maya. Maya understood. She checked Evelyn's pulse while Angela pulled another chair closer. It was the kind of teamwork they had practiced without ever naming it. An hour later, Evelyn was steady enough to leave. Then she discovered her transit card was empty. Her expression collapsed. I thought I had enough for tomorrow. Maya reached into her pocket before Angela could move. She took out the folded bills she had been saving for those running shoes. Here. Evelyn stared at the money. No. Ms. Carter, I can't take that. You can pay me back by getting home warm. Maya, please. Evelyn's eyes filled. Maya pressed the bills into her hand. It was not much. But Maya knew exactly how much it was. Every dollar had been counted. Every dollar had been saved. Angela watched from several feet away. She said nothing until Evelyn's ride pulled away from the curb. Then she looked at her daughter. You were saving that. I still am. Angela's mouth lifted slightly. You know what I mean. Maya shoved her hands into her sweatshirt pockets. She needed it more tonight. Angela nodded. Not proud in a loud way, just understanding. That was how Maya had learned kindness. Not from speeches, from watching. Years earlier, when money had been so tight that an eviction notice appeared on their apartment door after a military pay delay tangled their finances for weeks, Angela still found ways to help other people. She repaired a neighbor's alternator in the parking lot without charging him. She carried groceries upstairs for a retired veteran with bad knees. She spent one Sunday afternoon replacing a broken kitchen faucet for an elderly woman who tried to pay her with $20 and a pie. Angela accepted the pie, not the money. Maya remembered asking her why. They had been sitting at their small kitchen table beneath a light that flickered whenever the refrigerator compressor started. We might lose this apartment, Maya had said. Angela had looked toward the eviction notice folded beside the salt shaker. I know. Then why are you helping everybody else for free? Her mother had been quiet for a moment, because being scared about what we might lose doesn't give me permission to stop being who I am. Maya never forgot that. Angela's rank had never been the thing that made her extraordinary in Maya's eyes. It was the way she carried grocery bags for people who would never know what decorations sat inside a box at home. The way she could repair an engine, calm a frightened veteran, scrub pots at Morning Star, then disappear for an assignment without ever asking anyone to admire her. That was the woman Reeves was laughing at. Not an imaginary hero. Not a story Maya had invented to impress Rachel. Her mother. The memory vanished as Reeves snapped his fingers once. Still with us? Maya blinked. South Park returned around her. The perfect rows of shoes, the polished fixtures, the staring strangers, Rachel beside her, James Walker several yards away, and Reeves wearing the same confident expression. Maya's hand closed around the coin again. Reeves noticed. Let's make this simple, he said. You don't need to make anything simple. If your mother is what you say she is, basic questions shouldn't be difficult. Rachel shook her head. She already told you she doesn't have to answer you. I'm not talking to you. Maya touched Rachel's arm. Let it go. Rachel turned toward her. Maya, I'm okay. It was not completely true, but it was what Maya needed to become true. Reeves folded his arms. Your mother's been overseas? Maya did not answer. How many times? Silence. What country? Nothing. What special forces group? Maya's throat tightened. Angela had spent years teaching her the difference between being proud and being careless. There were things you did not repeat to strangers simply because they demanded them. Reeves leaned forward slightly. Come on. You brought it up. I said what my mother does. So prove it. Maya looked at him. I don't owe you proof. A few people shifted around them. Reeves smiled. There it is. Maya frowned. There's what? The part where the details disappear. His voice grew louder, just enough for the nearby shoppers. You had plenty to say until somebody asked where she served. Maya felt the old instinct rise inside her. Explain, defend, convince. Then another memory answered it. Angela at the kitchen table. Being scared doesn't give me permission to stop being who I am. Maya breathed in slowly. She would not turn her mother's life into entertainment for this man. Reeves tried again. What unit? No answer. What missions? Maya's fingers tightened around the brass coin. What countries? She remained silent. Reeves looked around at the watching customers and gave a knowing little shrug. See? Rachel's face flushed. James Walker lowered the boot box in his hands. Maya finally spoke. Her voice was soft enough that Reeves had to stop smiling to hear it. There are things my mother taught me not to discuss with strangers. Reeves's eyes narrowed. Convenient? No. Maya raised her chin. Respectful. Something shifted in James Walker's expression, but Reeves stepped closer. He was not satisfied anymore with proving Maya wrong. Now he wanted to make her fail, and his next questions were going to be designed for exactly that. Reeves shifted his weight and looked around the aisle as if the store had become his interview room. The white lights above them flattened every face. Nobody moved far. Nobody wanted to be obvious about watching, but almost everyone was watching now. Maya could feel it in the pauses between footsteps, in the way conversations nearby kept starting and stopping, in the phones held a little too still. Reeves folded his arms. What special forces group? Maya said nothing. He smiled. First, third, fifth, seventh? Rachel shook her head. You need to stop. Reeves ignored her. What base was your mother assigned to before Fort Bragg? Maya stared at him. What countries did she deploy to? Still nothing. What missions? Maya's fingers rested against the brass coin. Reeves tilted his head. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. No, Maya said. Her voice was soft. What? You're not asking because you want to know. Reeves's smile faded slightly. Maya continued. You're asking because you want me to say something wrong. A few people nearby shifted. Rachel looked at Maya with surprise, then pride. Reeves laughed once through his nose. That's convenient. It's true. I'm a police officer. I ask questions for a living. You're off duty. That landed. His eyes dropped to the badge clipped at his belt, then back to Maya. I've been in law enforcement 20 years. Maya nodded. That still doesn't make my mother's private military information your business. Reeves took a step closer. Not enough to touch her. Enough to make the difference in size obvious. Private military information. He repeated the phrase like he found it funny. Listen to you. Maya felt the heat rise in her face again. She hated that part. Hated that her body betrayed what she was trying to control. She could keep her voice steady. She could keep her hands still. But she could not stop the color in her cheeks. Reeves saw it, and he pressed harder. What rank did you say she was? Master Sergeant. What's her full name? Angela Brooks. Unit? Maya said nothing. Deployment? Nothing. Operation name? Nothing. Reeves looked around at the people watching. There it is. Rachel stepped forward. No, there isn't. Your friend can answer for herself. She already did. Reeves turned his attention back to Maya. You know what happens when people make big claims and can't back them up? Maya looked straight at him. Sometimes the person asking doesn't deserve the answer. For the first time, a young man near the running jackets quietly said, Exactly. The word was low, but Reeves heard it. His jaw tightened. A phone lifted higher near the end of the aisle, then another. Maya noticed the small red recording light on one screen. That changed something. Not because she wanted an audience, because now she understood that Reeves was no longer speaking only to her. He knew he was being watched, and instead of stopping, he seemed to become more careful, more polished, more dangerous. His voice softened. All right, let's slow this down. Maya did not answer. You say your mother is Special Forces. Yes. You say she's a Green Beret? Yes. But you won't say what group? No. Won't say where she served? No. Won't say what she did? No. Reeves spread his hands. Then how is anybody supposed to believe you? Maya felt something inside her go still. There it was. Not how would he know? Not how could he verify? How was anybody supposed to believe you? As if belief was something she had to earn from strangers. Rachel's voice cut in. She doesn't need anybody here to believe her. Reeves turned slightly. Then why say it? Because I asked her, Rachel said. We were having a conversation before you invited yourself into it. A few people nodded. Reeves noticed. He looked back at Maya. His expression had changed again. The amusement was mostly gone now. What remained was irritation. Maya knew that look. She had seen it on teachers who hated being corrected. On clerks who assumed she could not afford something until she paid. On people who became more offended by being proven wrong than by the harm they had caused. Reeves pointed toward the coin. Maybe that's what this is really about. Maya's hand moved over it. What? You've got the souvenir. You know the terminology. Maybe your mother worked somewhere on base and you built a bigger story around it. Rachel stared at him. You cannot be serious. Reeves kept his eyes on Maya. Maybe she's logistics. Across the aisle, James Walker's face hardened. Maybe administration. Maya said nothing. Maybe maintenance. Something in Maya's chest tightened. Reeves shrugged. Nothing wrong with any of those jobs. Then why are you saying them like there is? The question came from James. Everyone turned. James stood beside the work boot display, arms at his sides now, no box in his hands. Reeves looked him over. I'm having a conversation. You're trying to move the goalposts. Reeves gave a small smile. And you are? Someone listening? James's answer drew a murmur. Maya looked at him. This was the first time he had spoken loudly enough for everyone to hear, but he did not mention the coin. Not yet. Reeves looked annoyed. I'm not saying support jobs are lesser. Then stop using them as evidence she must be lying. The aisle went quiet again. Maya could feel the balance shift a fraction. Not enough, but a fraction. Reeves straightened. I'm simply saying the claim is unusual. Maya's voice came before she could stop it. Unusual to who? He turned. To anyone with experience. You mean to you? I mean to people who know what they're talking about. Maya took one slow breath. Angela's voice lived in her memory. Stay steady when somebody else wants you scattered. Reeves tried again. What exactly did your mother do overseas? Maya did not answer. His lips curled. Can't say? Won't. Same thing. No. Maya's voice was firmer now. It isn't. Rachel stood beside her, quiet. James watched from across the aisle. The phones stayed raised. Maya could feel the crowd waiting for her to break. She understood that now. Some wanted Reeves to be right. Some wanted Maya to be right. Most simply wanted something dramatic to happen. She hated all of it. Her mother's life was not a spectacle. Her family was not evidence. Her pride was not a debate topic. Reeves stepped closer again. Tell me one mission. No. One country. No. One unit. No. Then what do you have? Maya looked at him. For a moment, she thought of the challenge coin, the initials, the serial number, the worn brass. Then she thought of Angela handing groceries to strangers, fixing cars in parking lots, sitting beside Evelyn in the community kitchen, refusing $20 from a woman who needed it more. Maya realized the answer was not the coin, not the uniform, not the rank. She raised her chin. I have my mother's word. Reeves laughed. Maya continued before he could speak. And I have mine. The laugh died. You don't have to believe me for it to be true. The sentence settled over the aisle. Simple. Calm. Nothing dramatic. And yet several people lowered their phones slightly as if suddenly remembering they were watching a 19-year-old woman defend something deeply personal against a stranger twice her age. Rachel exhaled. James nodded once. Reeves looked around. He had lost a piece of the room. Maya could see it. That was when his hand moved toward his belt, not toward a weapon, toward the badge. He adjusted it deliberately, making sure the silver shield caught the light. Then a woman in a dark store polo appeared at the end of the aisle. Her name tag read Laura Bennett, assistant manager. She was 37, with a radio clipped to her waistband and concern already tightening her expression. "What's going on over here?" Reeves turned toward her before Maya could speak. His fingers rested near the badge, and the moment Laura saw it, something in her face changed. Laura Bennett had been walking toward them with the brisk, practiced concern of someone trying to keep a retail problem from becoming a scene. Then she noticed the silver shield clipped to Daniel Reeves's belt. Her steps slowed. Her shoulders lowered a fraction. Not much, but Maya saw it. So did Rachel. Laura's eyes moved from Reeves to Maya, then back again. "Sir," she said more carefully now, "is there a problem?" Reeves answered before anyone else could. "Yes." One word. Calm. Professional. The same voice that had been mocking Maya only moments earlier had changed shape completely. Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. Laura looked at him. Reeves gave a small nod toward Maya and Rachel. "These two have been creating a disturbance." Rachel stared at him. "What?" Maya's mouth opened, but Reeves continued. "They've been making some claims, getting confrontational when questioned, drawing a crowd." "That is not what happened," Rachel said. Laura raised one hand. "Please, one at a time." But she was still looking at Reeves. Not Maya, not Rachel. Reeves's fingers brushed the badge again. "I'm off duty," he said, almost modestly, "but I'm a police officer." "Daniel Reeves." Laura's posture changed a second time. "Of course, officer." Officer. The word seemed to rearrange the entire aisle. A moment ago, Reeves had been one loud stranger among many. Now he had a title. Maya saw what titles did to people. They made them choose who sounded credible before hearing the facts. Reeves's tone stayed controlled. "I overheard this young woman making what sounded like false claims about military service in her family. I asked a few simple questions. She became defensive." Maya stared at him. "Defensive?" Laura glanced at her. Maya continued. "You walked over to us. You laughed at me. You touched my property." Reeves sighed. The sigh was worse than another laugh. It sounded like patience. "See?" Rachel stepped forward. "No, don't do that." Laura turned to her. "Ma'am, please." Rachel's eyes widened. "Ma'am? He has been bothering us for the last 15 minutes. "Rachel," Maya said quietly. "No." Rachel looked at Laura. "We were shopping. He overheard a private conversation and decided Maya was lying because he didn't think her mother could be special forces." Laura's expression tightened. She finally looked directly at Maya. "Is that what happened?" "Yes." Reeves cut in. "That's an emotional version of it." Maya's head turned sharply. "An emotional version?" "I never said she couldn't be anything." James Walker's voice came from several feet away. "Yes, you did." Reeves looked over. James had moved closer now. The work boots were forgotten on the shelf behind him. He stood with both hands visible at his sides. You questioned whether a black woman could be a Green Beret. A murmur passed through the aisle. Laura's eyes flicked toward James, then toward the phones. There were more of them now. 3 people, openly recording. 2 others pretending not to. The assistant manager swallowed. This was no longer a customer service issue. It was becoming something that could travel beyond the store. Reeves sensed it too. He changed tactics. "I said the claim was unusual." Rachel shook her head. "That is not what you said. People hear what they want to hear." "I heard you clearly," James said. Reeves looked at him. "And who are you?" "Someone who is standing right here." Laura stepped between the sides as much as the narrow aisle allowed. "Okay, let's all calm down." Maya almost flinched at the phrase. Calm down. She had barely raised her voice. Rachel had spoken sharply, yes, but Reeves had created the confrontation. Now everyone was being folded into the same category, a disturbance. Laura lowered her voice. I don't want this escalating. Neither do we, Maya said. Then perhaps it would be best if you and your friend stepped outside for a few minutes. The words took a second to register. Rachel blinked. Excuse me? Laura looked uncomfortable. Just until things settle down. Maya stared at her. You want us to leave? I'm asking everybody to give the situation some space. Maya looked toward Reeves. He had not moved. Laura was not asking everybody. She was asking them. Rachel saw it too. What about him? Laura hesitated. He's not the one. She stopped. Too late. Maya heard the sentence anyway. Not the one causing the problem. That was what Laura had almost said. The badge had already decided the room. Maya felt the humiliation settle deeper than Reeves's laughter ever had. Mockery from a stranger was one thing. Being removed from a store because the stranger had a badge was another. She looked around, at the people who had seen it, at the phones, at the woman near the sock display, at the young man by the running jackets, at James. No one said anything for several seconds. That silence felt enormous. Reeves broke it. I think that's reasonable. Maya turned toward him. He gave a restrained little shrug, as though this were simply the natural consequence of her behavior. Rachel laughed once. Not because anything was funny. This is unbelievable. Laura's face reddened. I'm trying to prevent this from becoming worse. It got worse the moment you believed him, before asking us, Rachel said. Maya touched Rachel's arm. Come on. Rachel looked at her. Maya, it's fine. It was not fine. But Maya could feel the room tightening around them. She did not want Reeves to get what he had been trying to get all afternoon. Anger. A scene. Something he could point to later and say, see? So Maya turned back toward the shoe display. The box was still there. White cardboard, black lettering. The pair she had tried on 15 minutes earlier sat inside, tissue paper folded back, $180. 4 months of saving. She had imagined wearing them to campus, to clinical labs, maybe to Morning Star when her old sneakers finally gave out. Now she could barely look at them. Maya lifted the box. Rachel watched her. For half a second, Laura seemed to think Maya was taking it toward the register. Instead, Maya carried it back to the wall. She slid the box carefully into the open space beneath the display model. The cardboard made a soft scraping sound against the shelf. That sound somehow hurt. Reeves watched her. Then he spoke, quietly, almost conversationally. Probably better you spend that money on something realistic. Rachel spun around. You. Maya caught her wrist. Not hard. Just enough. Don't. Rachel's breathing was quick. Her eyes were bright with anger. Maya shook her head once. Not for him, for me. Rachel understood. She stopped. But James Walker did not look away this time. His jaw was set. The young man near the jackets lowered his phone, staring openly at Reeves now. Laura's face had gone pale. Maybe she realized she had just heard the comment too. Maybe she finally understood that neutral was not what she had been. Maya adjusted the strap of her canvas bag. The scratched brass coin tapped against the buckle. Reeves glanced at it. He was still smiling. Not broadly. Just enough. Maya reached into her sweatshirt pocket for her phone. She planned to text Angela that she and Rachel would wait outside. Before her fingers found the screen, the phone vibrated. Once. Maya pulled it out. A new message glowed against the dark display. Mom. Parking now. 4 minutes. Maya stared at those 4 words. Everything around her seemed to recede. The bright lights, the phones, Laura's discomfort, Rachel's anger, Reeves's badge. 4 minutes. Maya slowly locked the screen and slipped the phone back into her pocket. She looked at Laura. I'll leave when my mother gets here. Reeves heard her. His smile widened again. And somewhere beyond the glass storefront, Angela Brooks was already walking in from the parking lot. 4 minutes should not have felt like a long time. Maya had spent longer waiting for a bus in winter rain, longer standing in line at the pharmacy, longer staring at anatomy diagrams before an exam, trying to force one more set of terms into her memory. But now 4 minutes felt endless. Laura Bennett glanced toward the store entrance, then back at Maya. "Your mother is coming here?" "Yes." Reeves gave a quiet laugh. "Of course she is." Rachel turned toward him. "You really don't know when to stop, do you?" Maya touched her arm again. Rachel exhaled sharply but stayed quiet. Maya did not want another argument. She wanted the next 4 minutes to pass. That was all. The digital clock above the register read 3:42. People had stopped pretending this was none of their business. A woman near the sock wall held her phone openly now. The young man by the running jackets leaned against a display, watching Reeves with a frown. James Walker stood farther back, silent but alert, his attention fixed less on Reeves than on the brass coin against Maya's bag. Reeves checked his own watch. "Well," he said, "I guess we'll find out." Maya looked at him. "Find out what?" "If your story survives the next few minutes." Rachel muttered something under her breath. Reeves heard it. "What was that?" "Nothing worth explaining to you." His eyes narrowed, but Maya spoke before he could answer. "My mother is coming to pick me up. That's all." Reeves nodded toward the entrance. "Great. Then this should be easy." He sounded pleased. Too pleased. Maya realized he no longer cared whether Angela really existed. He had turned the moment into a performance. If Angela arrived in civilian clothes, Reeves could say that proved nothing. If she arrived late, he could laugh. If Maya left before she came, he could claim victory. He had built himself an exit no matter what happened. Or at least he thought he had. Laura looked uncomfortable. "Officer Reeves, maybe we should just let this end." He glanced at her. "I'm fine. That's not what I meant." For the first time, Laura's voice carried a trace of resistance. Reeves noticed. So did Maya. He smiled without warmth. "I'm not doing anything. I'm standing here." Maya almost said, "That has been the problem." She stopped herself. The clock changed. 3:43. 3 minutes. A notification chimed from one of the phones recording nearby. The sound seemed loud in the silence. Maya could feel sweat beneath the strap of her canvas bag. Her old sneakers suddenly felt too tight. She wished she had never picked up the $180 shoes. That thought surprised her. The shoes had seemed so important an hour ago. A reward for 4 months of discipline. A small thing she had earned herself. Now the box sat back on the shelf, untouched, and the idea of buying them felt connected to humiliation. She hated that Reeves had managed to stain something that had belonged only to her. He followed her gaze toward the display. Then he smiled again. "You know what?" Maya said nothing. Reeves pointed toward the shoes. "Let's make it interesting." Laura's face tightened. "Officer, if your mother walks through that door wearing a real Special Forces uniform, I'll buy those for you." Several people reacted at once. A murmur, a short laugh from somewhere near the register. Rachel stared at him in disbelief. "You think this is a game?" Reeves shrugged. "I'm giving her a chance to prove me wrong." Maya looked at the shoes, then at him. He had reduced everything to a wager. Her mother's service, her word, her humiliation, a pair of sneakers. Maya felt something inside her settle. The anger was still there. The shame, too. But beneath both was something harder, cleaner. She met his eyes. "I don't want anything from you." Reeves's smile faltered. Just slightly. Maya continued. "I saved for those myself." The store went quiet again. "I don't need you to buy them." Reeves recovered quickly. "I was trying to be generous." "No." Maya shook her head. "You were trying to make yourself the winner either way." Rachel looked at her. "James Walker did too." Reeves's expression stiffened. "I don't know what that means." "Yes, you do." Maya's voice remained calm. "If my mother comes in, you buy shoes and make it look like you were joking. If she doesn't come in fast enough, you get to laugh again." Reeves opened his mouth. Maya finished. I'm not playing. For the first time since the confrontation began, the silence belonged to her, not to him. Reeves looked around and seemed to realize it. The crowd was no longer watching Maya like a girl caught in a lie. They were watching him like a man who had pushed too far. The clock changed again. 3:44. 2 minutes. Maya's phone stayed in her pocket. She did not check it. She did not need to. Angela had said parking now. Her mother came when she said she would. Always had, unless something beyond her control made it impossible. Maya remembered being younger and waiting by the apartment window for headlights. Some nights Angela had been late. Some nights very late. But when she finally came through the door, she always carried herself as though she had spent the whole trip home protecting that promise. I'm coming back. Maya touched the coin. The brass was warm from her hand. Reeves noticed. His eyes flicked toward it. You keep touching that thing like it's going to save you. Maya looked down at the worn initials. A B no. She lifted her eyes. It reminds me who raised me. That answer seemed to bother him more than anger would have. Rachel smiled faintly. James Walker finally moved. Not far. One step, then another. He came out from beside the boot display. Reeves saw him approaching. What now? James ignored him. He stopped several feet from Maya. Close enough to speak quietly. Far enough not to invade her space. Maya. She looked at him. It was the first time he had used her name. James nodded toward the brass coin. His face had changed since the moment Reeves turned it over beneath the lights. There was no uncertainty in it now, only recognition, and something like regret. May I ask you something? Maya hesitated. James kept his hands at his sides. He did not reach for the coin. He did not demand. He waited. That alone made him different from Reeves. Maya nodded once. James looked at the reverse side hanging against the strap. The initials. The faded number beneath them. His eyes narrowed. May I look at that coin again? Reeves gave an exasperated laugh. Oh, come on. James still did not look at him. Maya lifted the coin carefully between her fingers. The scratched brass caught the white light. James leaned closer, and as the tiny serial number came into view, the color changed in his face. He knew exactly what he was looking at. James Walker did not touch the coin. That was the first thing Maya noticed. He leaned closer, studying the worn brass where it rested between her fingers, but he kept his hands at his sides, as though he understood, without being told, that this object carried more weight than its size suggested. His eyes moved over the initials, a B, then lower, to the nearly erased line of numbers beneath them. For several seconds, the store disappeared from James's expression. The bright lights, the phones, Reeves, even Maya. It was as though the old man was looking through the brass and into another place entirely. Rachel noticed it too. What is it? James blinked. His jaw worked once before he spoke. Where did your mother get this? Maya felt Reeves shift behind him. She gave it to me after she came back from overseas. When? Years ago. James nodded slowly. You know where she was? Maya's guard went up again. No. James immediately raised one hand. That's all right. Don't tell me. The difference between his question and Reeves's interrogation was so sharp that Maya almost felt it physically. James was not asking for secrets. He was confirming something for himself. Reeves let out a breath of impatience. We're seriously doing this now? James finally turned. Yes. Reeves folded his arms. It's a coin. James looked back at Maya. Would you mind turning it a little? Maya did. The light caught the serial number at an angle. James leaned closer. There. Enough remained. His face tightened. I thought so. Rachel stepped nearer. Thought what? James looked around at the people gathered in the aisle. For the first time, he seemed aware that all of them were waiting for him. He looked uncomfortable with the attention. Then he looked at Maya again. I spent 27 years in Army logistics. Reeves gave a faint scoff. James continued as if he had not heard. A lot of that time was supporting special operations units, moving equipment, keeping records, making sure people had what they needed in places where details didn't belong in casual conversation. Maya's fingers closed more tightly around the coin. James nodded toward it. That numbering pattern isn't commercial. Reeves shook his head. You can engrave anything. Yes. James's voice stayed calm. You can. He pointed without touching toward the tiny numbers. But you can't buy that issue sequence in a surplus shop, because those weren't made for retail. The aisle seemed to narrow. Laura Bennett stared at the coin. The young man by the jackets raised his phone higher. James continued. They came from a limited commemorative run tied to an overseas operation, small batch, individually numbered. Maya looked down at the brass in her palm. For years, she had carried it because it belonged to Angela. She had never known the number mattered, never asked. Her mother had simply told her to keep it safe. Rachel whispered, So it's real? James looked at her. The coin is. Then he turned toward Reeves, and whoever received it didn't get it from a gift shop. A murmur moved through the crowd, not loud, but different from before, the sound of people recalculating. Reeves's expression hardened. You said whoever received it. That's right. So you don't know it belonged to her mother. James looked at Maya. No. Reeves spread his hands as though that settled everything. Exactly. Maya felt the hope that had risen in her chest hesitate. Reeves stepped forward again. This proves somebody had a military coin. That's all. James's eyes narrowed. I didn't say it proved her mother's resume. Then what are we doing? James held his gaze. We're watching you ignore every reason to consider that you might be wrong. That hit harder than Maya expected. Reeves's face reddened. I don't need a lecture from you. No. James shook his head. You needed one from yourself about 20 minutes ago. A few people murmured agreement. Laura looked down. Reeves glanced around the aisle. Maya saw the change in him. Before, the crowd had been useful. Their silence had made him larger. Now the same eyes felt like pressure. He reached toward his belt again, thumb brushing the edge of his badge. James noticed. That badge doesn't change the serial number. Reeves's hand stopped. His voice sharpened. Watch yourself. The words were quiet. James did not move. Neither did Maya. For a moment, the entire aisle seemed to hold its breath. Maya's heartbeat thudded against her ribs. She had wanted someone to speak earlier. Now that James finally had, she understood what silence had protected him from. Reeves did not like being contradicted, especially not publicly. James knew it too, and still he stood there. Maya looked at the scratched coin again. Do you remember this exact one? James hesitated. Not this number. He pointed again. But I remember the run. His voice softened. I remember seeing cases of them before distribution. I remember the paperwork because there weren't many. Maya swallowed. What operation? James looked at her, then smiled faintly. If your mother taught you not to discuss things like that with strangers, I'm not going to undo her work. For the first time that afternoon, Maya almost smiled. James nodded toward the coin. But this much I can tell you. She gave you something that mattered. Maya looked down. It mattered before. Now it felt heavier. Not because it proved Angela was important. Because Angela had trusted Maya with something she had never felt the need to explain. Reeves interrupted. This is getting ridiculous. James turned. No. What was ridiculous was taking a young woman's family keepsake without permission and calling it fake because her story didn't fit your assumptions. I never called the coin fake. Rachel stared at him. You literally did. I said it could be a souvenir. You said surplus store. Several heads nodded. One of the people recording spoke up. You did. Reeves looked toward the voice. A woman near the sock wall held her phone steady. I have it recorded. Something shifted again. Not dramatic. Not yet. But definite. Reeves was no longer controlling the record of what had happened. The phones were. James was. Rachel was. And Maya was still standing. The digital clock over the register read 3:45. 1 minute. Maya noticed it. Her stomach tightened. Angela should be close. Reeves followed her eyes to the clock. Then he looked toward the glass storefront. Nothing. Customers moved through the mall beyond it. Shopping bags. Strollers were absent. Only adults passed. A couple carrying coffee. A man in a business suit. No Angela. Reeves smiled again. There was relief in it now. Well, Maya said nothing. Looks like our 4 minutes are almost up. Rachel checked the entrance. James's expression remained calm. Laura folded her hands in front of her, visibly uncomfortable. Maya did not reach for her phone. She would not give Reeves the satisfaction. He nodded toward the coin. So now we have an authentic coin and still no special forces mother. James sighed. You still don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. No. James's voice was almost tired. The coin didn't have to prove everything. He looked directly at Reeves. It just had to prove you didn't know everything. The words landed in the silence. Reeves opened his mouth, then stopped. From somewhere beyond the front of the store came a sound. Faint at first, measured, firm, the strike of boots against polished mall tile. Maya's head lifted. Rachel turned toward the entrance. James went still. Another step, then another. Not rushed, not hesitant. Reeves looked toward the glass storefront. The confident expression on his face began to loosen. The people near the entrance shifted aside. And before anyone could say another word, a figure in immaculate army service uniform appeared beyond the open doorway, a green beret tucked beneath one arm. Maya stopped breathing. Her mother had arrived. Master Sergeant Angela Brooks stepped through the entrance beneath the bright South Park lights, as if she had no idea an entire store had been waiting for her. She was 46, composed and straight-backed, dressed in the immaculate Army service uniform she had worn to the ceremony at Fort Bragg. Every ribbon was aligned. Every insignia sat exactly where it belonged. Her green beret rested neatly beneath her left arm. She did not look toward the crowd first. She looked for her daughter. That was what Maya noticed. Not the shoppers moving aside. Not Daniel Reeves going suddenly still. Not Laura Bennett staring at the uniform, as if the floor had shifted beneath her. Angela's eyes crossed the store until they found Maya. Then her expression changed. Only slightly. But Maya knew her mother well enough to see it. Angela noticed the redness around her eyes, the tension in her shoulders, the empty space on the shoe display where Maya had been standing. Then she noticed Maya's hand. It was wrapped tightly around the brass challenge coin. Angela's gaze stayed there for half a second. That coin meant something different between them. Maya carried it every day, but she only held it like that when she was trying very hard not to show fear. Angela began walking. The sound of her boots against the polished floor seemed louder now that everyone had gone quiet. Step, step, step. Maya felt her throat close. For nearly half an hour, she had imagined this moment. She had pictured feeling victorious. She had pictured Reeves finally realizing how wrong he had been. Instead, when Angela came closer, Maya felt 19 years old in the simplest possible way. She wanted her mother. Rachel whispered, "Maya." Maya did not move. Angela crossed the final few feet and stopped beside her. She placed one hand on Maya's shoulder. Warm, steady, familiar. "You okay?" That was all. Not who did this. Not why is everybody staring. Not what happened here. Just that. Maya tried to answer. "I'm fine." Angela looked at her. Maya's voice failed on the last word. Her mother's hand tightened gently. Angela looked toward Rachel. Rachel's face told her enough to know the answer was no. Then Angela looked around. James Walker stood near the boot display. Several phones were raised. Laura Bennett stood with her radio still clipped at her waist, her face pale. And Daniel Reeves stood beside the running shoe display with one hand hovering near the badge on his belt. Angela's eyes rested on him. Reeves straightened automatically. The man who had spent 20 years reading uniforms and authority understood this one immediately. His gaze moved across Angela's rank. Her name. Brooks. The insignia. The ribbons. Then the green beret beneath her arm. For the first time since Maya had met him, Daniel Reeves had nothing to say. Angela turned back to her daughter. What happened? Maya looked down. She hated that tears threatened her now. She had held them back when Reeves laughed, held them back when he touched the coin, held them back when Laura asked her to leave. Now that Angela was here, holding them back felt harder. He said I was lying. Angela remained still. About what? Maya glanced toward Reeves. About you. Something passed across Angela's face. Not surprise. Not anger exactly. Something colder. More controlled. Maya continued. He heard me tell Rachel you were coming from Fort Bragg. Angela waited. And I said you were special forces. The store was so quiet that Maya could hear someone's phone vibrate several aisles away. He laughed. Angela's eyes moved toward Reeves. Maya swallowed. He said you couldn't be. Why? Maya did not answer immediately. She did not need to. Rachel did. He said a black woman being a green beret didn't make sense. Angela's jaw tightened. James lowered his eyes. Laura looked toward Reeves. One of the shoppers recording shifted the phone to keep both Angela and Reeves in frame. Angela slowly removed her hand from Maya's shoulder, not because she was pulling away, because she was turning. She faced Reeves fully. He adjusted his posture. Master Sergeant. Angela said nothing. Reeves cleared his throat. This was just a misunderstanding. The sentence sounded different now. Earlier, every word from Reeves had filled the aisle. Now even his voice seemed smaller. Angela studied him. She did not look at the badge first. She looked directly at his face. What was misunderstood? Reeves blinked. Excuse me? You said this was a misunderstanding. Her tone was quiet enough that everyone leaned into the silence. I'm asking what you misunderstood. Reeves looked around. For the first time, the crowd gave him nothing. No uncertain faces, no nervous laughter, no convenient silence that could be mistaken for agreement. Only cameras, witnesses, and the woman he had told Maya could not exist. I overheard a conversation, he said. The claim sounded unusual. Angela's expression did not change. My existence sounded unusual. That's not what I said. Rachel drew a breath, but Angela lifted one finger slightly. Rachel stopped. Angela kept her eyes on Reeves. What did you say? Reeves rubbed his jaw. I may have questioned whether she understood the terminology correctly. Maya felt something tighten in her chest. There it was again. A cleaner version. A safer version. The same thing he had done with Laura. Angela looked toward Maya. Is that what happened? Maya shook her head. No. Reeves exhaled. Master Sergeant, with respect. Angela's eyes returned to him. Be careful with that word. He stopped. Angela's voice remained level. Respect is not something you add to the beginning of a sentence after humiliating someone. Nobody moved. Reeves's face reddened. I wasn't trying to humiliate anyone. James finally spoke. You were laughing. Reeves turned toward him. James did not back away. Rachel added, and you touched her coin after she told you not to. The woman recording near the sock display spoke next. And you said her mother couldn't be special forces. Another voice came from behind her. I heard it too. The crowd that had been silent 20 minutes earlier was beginning to remember what it had witnessed. Angela glanced down at Maya's bag. The challenge coin still hung there. A bee. Its scratched surface caught the store light. Angela reached toward it. Unlike Reeves, she did not pick it up. She touched it once with the tip of her finger. Then she looked at Maya. He touched this? Maya nodded, without asking. For the first time, something visibly changed in Angela's expression. The coin was no longer simply a clue. It was personal. Angela turned back toward Reeves. That belonged to me. Reeves swallowed. I didn't know, no. Angela's voice was almost gentle. That seems to be the problem. James looked down, as though the words struck him too. Angela stepped closer to Reeves. Not threateningly, just enough that he had to meet her eyes. You decided what my daughter was worth believing before you knew anything about her. Reeves opened his mouth. Angela continued. You decided what I could be before you ever saw me. His mouth closed. And when she refused to give you information you had no right to demand, you treated restraint as evidence of dishonesty. Laura lowered her gaze. Maya watched her mother. The anger was there now. Maya could hear it beneath every measured word, but Angela had complete command of it. That made it stronger. Reeves tried once more. I admitted it was a misunderstanding. Angela held his gaze. No. She paused. You called it a misunderstanding because saying what actually happened would require you to admit what you assumed. Reeves's face tightened. Across the aisle, James Walker nodded slowly. Angela glanced at the police badge on Reeves's belt. Then she looked toward Laura. Maya saw the instant her mother understood there was another part of the story. Why was my daughter being asked to leave? Laura froze. Reeves's eyes shifted toward her. Maya felt the atmosphere change again. The uniform had already proven Reeves wrong. But Angela had just discovered that his laughter had not been the worst thing that happened. And when she looked back at the badge on his belt, Daniel Reeves seemed to understand the same thing. Angela turned toward Laura Bennett. Why was my daughter being asked to leave? Laura's lips parted, but for a moment, no words came. The assistant manager looked toward Reeves. That reflex told Angela almost everything. Maya saw it too. Laura had been the person with authority inside the store. She wore the radio. She could call security. She could decide who stayed and who left. Yet even now, with the truth standing in front of her in army uniform, she looked to Reeves before answering. Angela waited. Laura finally spoke. There was a disturbance. Who caused it? I was trying to calm things down. That wasn't my question. Angela's voice never rose. Laura swallowed. Reeves stepped in. Master Sergeant, I explained to Ms. Bennett that the conversation had gotten confrontational. Angela looked at him. Confrontational how? Reeves hesitated. Maya was becoming defensive. Maya felt Rachel tense beside her. Angela's eyes moved to her daughter. Were you threatening him? No. Did you touch him? No. Did you block him from leaving? No. Raise your voice? Maya thought about it. No. Angela turned to Rachel. What did you see? Rachel answered immediately. He approached us. He laughed at Maya. He kept asking her questions after she told him she wasn't discussing her mother's deployments. Then when Laura came over, he showed his badge and said Maya had been causing a disturbance. Angela looked toward James. James nodded. That's what happened. One of the shoppers holding a phone spoke from near the sock display. I recorded part of it. Another voice followed. So did I. Reeves looked around. The room that had once protected him with silence was changing sides one witness at a time. Angela did not smile. She simply asked, Officer Reeves, did you identify yourself as law enforcement while this was happening? I told them who I was. Did you display your badge? It was already on my belt. That isn't what I asked. Reeves's jaw tightened. Yes. And after you did that, did you tell Ms. Bennett my daughter was creating a disturbance? I told her what I observed. Angela's gaze sharpened. You told her Maya was aggressive. Reeves paused. Laura looked down. Maya said quietly, He did. Rachel nodded. Reeves shifted his weight. I may have used that word in describing the situation. Angela stepped half a pace closer. Was she aggressive? I felt she was becoming... Was she aggressive? The question landed harder the second time. Reeves looked at Maya. She stood exactly as she had for most of the confrontation. Canvas bag against her hip, hands near the brass coin. Shoulders tense, but controlled. 19 years old. No threat to anyone. Reeves looked away. I may have interpreted her tone differently. Angela stared at him. So your interpretation became a fact because you were wearing a badge. That's not fair. No? Angela glanced toward Laura. Did his badge affect how seriously you took his version? Laura's face flushed. Maya watched her struggle. The answer was obvious. Laura knew it. Everyone knew it. Finally, she said, Yes. The admission changed the air. Angela nodded once. Thank you for being honest. Laura looked as though the words hurt more than anger would have. I should have listened to Maya first. Yes, Angela said. No cruelty. No comfort either. Just truth. Reeves stepped forward. This is getting blown out of proportion. Angela turned back to him. Which part? I made a mistake. You mocked my daughter? I've admitted that. You dismissed her mother's military service because it didn't fit what you expected. I said the claim sounded unusual. You touched something belonging to her after she asked you not to. Reeves looked toward the coin. That was brief. You questioned her about operational matters she had no obligation to discuss. I was trying to verify. And when she refused, you used that refusal as evidence that she was lying. Reeves's face reddened. I was skeptical. Angela nodded. You were allowed to be skeptical. That answer surprised him. Angela continued. You were allowed to think she was mistaken. You were allowed to walk away. The silence deepened. What you were not entitled to do was turn your skepticism into humiliation. And you were especially not entitled to use your profession to make everyone else treat your assumption like evidence. Reeves looked toward the recording phones. His breathing had changed. Shallower now. More careful. Angela saw it. You said this was a misunderstanding. Reeves rubbed the side of his neck. Yes. Angela's voice became almost quiet enough to force him to lean closer. What exactly did you misunderstand? He said nothing. That Maya knew her own mother? No answer. That a 19-year-old nursing student understood the words special forces? Reeves's eyes hardened. Or did you misunderstand what a green beret is supposed to look like? Rachel inhaled sharply. James lowered his gaze. Reeves spoke quickly. I never said women can't serve. Angela waited. I never said black people can't serve. Angela still said nothing. Reeves's voice became defensive. You're putting words in my mouth. Rachel raised her phone. No one has to. Reeves looked at her. Rachel tapped the screen. I recorded you. The woman near the sock display lifted her own phone. So did I. Another shopper added, You said, a black woman? Green beret? Come on. Reeves went still. For the first time, there was nowhere to move the story. No cleaner version, no reinterpretation, no badge powerful enough to erase his own voice. Angela studied him for several seconds. Then she asked the question he had been avoiding. Were you acting as an officer when you used that badge to make her word worth less than yours? Reeves's lips parted. Nothing came out. Angela did not rescue him from the silence. Maya felt something strange happen inside her. The humiliation had not disappeared. The memory of Reeves laughing would not vanish because he had finally been cornered by the truth. But the balance had changed. Earlier, Maya had been forced to prove herself. Now Reeves was the one who had to explain. And he could not. Laura looked toward Maya. I'm sorry. Maya looked at her. Laura's voice shook slightly. I should never have asked you to leave without hearing you. I saw his badge and assumed... She stopped. Maya finished the thought for her, that he had to be telling the truth. Laura nodded. Yes. Maya felt the old temptation toward anger. For a moment, she wanted Laura to feel every second of what Maya had felt standing beside those shoes. Instead, she said, You didn't have to believe me. You just had to listen before deciding. Laura lowered her eyes. You're right. Angela looked at her daughter. Something warm passed through her expression. Not relief. Pride. Then her attention returned to the practical problem in front of them. She looked toward the ceiling. Small black security cameras were mounted at several angles over the sales floor. One above the shoe department. Another pointed toward the main aisle. A third covered the entrance. Angela's posture changed. Maya recognized it immediately. Her mother had finished reacting. Now she was documenting. Ms. Bennett? Laura straightened. Yes? I want every second of surveillance footage covering this area preserved. Reeves looked up. Angela continued. From before my daughter entered this aisle until after everyone here leaves. Laura nodded quickly. Yes. Not copied over. Not automatically deleted. Preserved. I understand. Angela turned toward Rachel. Keep your recording. Rachel nodded. Then toward the woman by the socks. If you're willing, keep yours too. I will. Another shopper raised his phone. Mine too. James stepped forward. I'll give a statement. Angela looked at him. Thank you. Reeves gave a humorless laugh. So now we're building a case? Angela faced him. No. She looked once more at his badge. We're preserving the truth. Reeves's face changed. Angela took out her phone. She did not threaten him, did not demand his job, did not raise her voice. She simply photographed his name and badge number. That frightened him more than anything else had. Because Reeves finally understood that Angela Brooks was not interested in humiliating him the way he had humiliated Maya. She was interested in accountability. And accountability had a way of reaching much farther than one aisle in a sporting goods store. Angela did not stay to watch Daniel Reeves become uncomfortable. That mattered to Maya. Her mother could have stood beneath those bright store lights and made him answer until every excuse collapsed. She could have demanded a supervisor, called the police department from the aisle, or let the growing crowd turn Reeves's humiliation into entertainment. Instead, Angela documented what mattered. Names, badge number, witnesses, video, surveillance cameras. Then she put one arm around Maya's shoulders. We're going home. Reeves looked almost surprised. Maybe he had expected anger. Maybe he understood anger better than restraint. Angela gave him neither forgiveness nor revenge. She simply turned away. Outside, rain had begun falling over Charlotte. Drops streaked the mall's glass doors, turning parking lot lights into blurred ribbons of white and red. Cars hissed over wet pavement, while Maya walked beside Angela and Rachel toward the parking deck. Nobody spoke until they reached the car. Rachel climbed into the back. Maya sat in the passenger seat. Angela placed her green beret carefully on the console before starting the engine. The dashboard glowed soft blue. For several seconds, only the rain spoke. Maya stared through the windshield. I'm sorry. Angela turned. For what? For all of that. Angela's brow tightened. You didn't cause it. I talked about you. You told your friend what your mother does. I know, but... No. Angela's voice was gentle. Don't carry somebody else's behavior home as if it belongs to you. Maya looked down at the brass coin against her bag. The words helped. They did not erase the ache. I almost wished I had lied. Angela understood immediately. About me? Just said you worked on base or something. Angela was quiet for a moment. Then she reached across and covered Maya's hand. You never owe strangers my resume. Maya looked at her. But you also never have to make me smaller so somebody else can stay comfortable. Maya's eyes burned. Angela squeezed her hand once, then released it. The car pulled into the rain. By the time they reached Charlotte's west side, the first video had already been posted. Rachel saw it before Maya did. Oh no. Maya turned around. What? Rachel held up her phone. The clip was short. 48 seconds. Reeves laughing. Maya refusing to answer questions. His badge catching the light. Then his voice saying that a black woman being a green beret did not sound believable. Someone had captioned it. Rachel's screen was filling with comments faster than she could read them. Maya's stomach dropped. I don't want this. Angela glanced toward her. Then don't watch it tonight. But everybody else will. We can't control everybody else. Angela kept her eyes on the wet road. We can control what we do next. That night, they did almost nothing. Angela made tea. Maya changed into sweatpants and sat at the small kitchen table while rain tapped against the apartment windows. The expensive shoes remained at South Park. The challenge coin lay beside Maya's mug. At 11:17, Angela submitted a formal complaint. Not a social media post. Not an angry statement. A complaint. Time. Location. Witness names. Reeves's badge number. Laura Bennett's information. A request that the department obtain and preserve the store footage. Then Angela closed the laptop. Now we sleep. Maya looked at her. Can you? Angela gave a tired smile. I've learned to try. By sunrise, the story had traveled far beyond South Park. And by 8:10 that morning, Captain Rebecca Foster was watching the footage inside the Professional Standards Division of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. Foster was 52 and had spent enough years investigating misconduct to distrust clips without context. So she did not begin with social media. She began with records. She pulled Reeves's personnel file, then complaints. The first search produced several. Nothing extraordinary at first glance. Discourtesy, unprofessional communication, dismissive conduct. Complaints closed after review. Foster opened the oldest. A black restaurant owner had claimed Reeves accused him of inventing a medical emergency to avoid a citation. Closed, insufficient evidence. Another involved a low-income motorist who said Reeves laughed when she explained why her registration paperwork was delayed. Closed. Communication issue. Another involved a veteran. Foster paused. She kept reading. The wording began to feel familiar. Claimant states Officer Reeves repeatedly suggested he was misrepresenting prior military service. Foster leaned back. Then she opened another file, and another. The details changed. The pattern did not. People Reeves decided were exaggerating. People he treated as dishonest before verifying their stories. Black adults, poor motorists, workers in old uniforms, people driving aging cars, people whose appearance seemed to make Reeves suspicious of whatever dignity, profession, hardship, or history they claimed for themselves. Individually, each complaint had looked small. Together, they looked different. Foster called an analyst into her office. Run every complaint attached to Reeves for the last 10 years. The analyst looked surprised. All of them? All of them. What are we looking for? Foster turned her monitor toward him. Anything involving credibility. By noon, there were more files on her desk. Several had never resulted in formal findings. Some lacked video. Some had been reduced to conflicting accounts. Others had been categorized so narrowly that the broader behavior disappeared beneath administrative language. Foster rubbed her forehead. This was the problem with patterns. Sometimes nobody saw them because the system stored each piece in a different drawer. Her phone rang. The department command staff had seen the video. Then came another call, then another. By early afternoon, Reeves was instructed to report to professional standards. His supervisory duties were suspended pending review. He arrived in plain clothes. No smirk, no audience. Foster placed a printed transcript of the store recording on the table. Reeves looked at it. This has gotten completely out of hand. Foster did not respond. I apologized. She opened a folder. This isn't only about South Park. Reeves looked up. What does that mean? Foster placed a second file beside the first, then a third, then a fourth. His expression changed. These were already reviewed. They were reviewed separately and cleared. Some were closed without findings. Same thing. No. Foster folded her hands. It isn't. Reeves leaned back. You're reopening old complaints because of one viral video? I'm reopening them because the video may provide context we did not have before. His jaw tightened. You're trying to turn me into something I'm not. Foster studied him. I haven't decided what you are. She tapped the files. I'm deciding what you did. For once, Reeves had no immediate answer. Across town, Maya was sitting in a nursing lecture when her phone vibrated inside her bag. She ignored it until class ended. Then she stepped into the hallway. Angela had sent one message. Professional Standards reopened the prior complaints. Maya read it twice. She should have felt victorious. Instead, she thought of all the people whose names she did not know. All the people who had stood where she stood. People without Rachel recording. Without James recognizing a coin. Without Angela walking through the door. Her chest tightened. How many had gone home wondering whether they had somehow caused their own humiliation? That evening, Angela received a call from Captain Foster. Maya sat across the kitchen table while her mother listened. Angela's expression remained controlled until Foster mentioned one name. Then everything changed. Angela sat straighter. Say that again. Maya looked up. A long pause followed. Angela's fingers tightened around the phone. Yes, she said quietly. I know him. Maya's stomach turned. Angela listened for another moment. Then she closed her eyes. The name in the reopened complaint belonged to Walter Price. 64 years old, disabled veteran, and only months earlier, Angela Brooks had found him stranded beside a broken-down car on a cold Charlotte roadside. She had helped him without asking for anything. What Angela had never known was that Walter had already met Daniel Reeves, and unlike Maya, Walter had walked away from that encounter, believing no one would ever listen. Angela remembered the roadside first. It had been late winter, 3 months earlier, on the west side of Charlotte, where apartment buildings sat close to pawn shops, laundromats, and small restaurants glowing under tired neon signs. Rain had just stopped. The pavement still shone black beneath the streetlights. Angela had been driving home from Fort Bragg when she saw an older man standing beside a faded Buick with its hood raised, one hand resting against the fender while traffic hissed past him. She could have kept driving. She had already been awake nearly 18 hours. Instead, she pulled over. Walter Price was 64, a disabled Army veteran with a careful way of moving that made every step look planned in advance. When Angela approached, he immediately shook his head. "Ma'am, you don't have to stop. I already did." He gave her a tired smile. "That's hard to argue with." Angela inspected the engine beneath the beam of her flashlight. Loose battery connection. Corroded terminal. Nothing dramatic, but enough to leave Walter stranded. "You got tools?" "A few. Show me." 20 minutes later, Angela had cleaned the connection enough to get the Buick running. Walter stood beside her, embarrassed by how relieved he looked. "What do I owe you?" "Nothing." "Come on." "No." "At least let me buy you dinner." Angela closed the hood. "You look like you're the one who needs dinner." That was how they ended up at a small diner off Freedom Drive, sitting beneath warm yellow lights while rainwater slid down the windows. Walter ordered meatloaf. Angela had coffee and eggs. He tried to pay when the check came. Angela already had. "You military?" Walter asked. Angela looked at him. "What gave me away?" "You check an engine like somebody checks equipment before movement." Angela smiled. "Army." Walter nodded. "Me too." That was all either of them said about service. No ranks, no stories designed to impress, no medals. Just two adults recognizing something familiar in each other. Before they parted, Walter held out $40. Angela refused it. "You helped me more than $40 worth. Then help somebody else." Walter stared at her. Angela opened her car door. "That's how you pay me." She had not seen him again until Morning Star Community Kitchen, and she had never known what had happened to him weeks before that rainy night. Now Walter sat across from Angela and Maya in a quiet consultation room at Professional Standards. Captain Rebecca Foster had arranged the meeting after Walter agreed to reopen his statement. The fluorescent lights were softer than those at South Park, but Maya still hated the way official rooms made people sit straighter. Walter looked older than he had at Morning Star. Not weaker, just tired in a way Maya understood better now. His hands rested on a worn cane. Angela sat beside Maya. Foster remained across the table with a closed folder. She did not interrupt. Walter took a breath. "It happened last fall." His voice was rough. "I was coming back from a veterans clinic. He had been driving the same Buick." Reeves stopped him for an expired registration sticker. Walter admitted immediately that the sticker was overdue. The paperwork had been delayed while he waited for corrected disability documentation. "I wasn't arguing the ticket," Walter said. "That's the part I need you to understand." Angela nodded. "What happened?" Walter looked down. "My veteran plate came up in conversation." His mouth tightened. "I told him I'd served." Maya felt her stomach knot before he continued. "Reeves looked at me and asked if I was sure." Angela went still. Walter gave a bitter little laugh. Like a man could forget. He explained that Reeves questioned the branch, the years, the type of discharge. At first, Walter answered because he thought cooperation would end it. It did not. The more he answered, the more suspicious Reeves became. He asked why I didn't have anything on me proving it. Walter tapped the cane lightly against the floor. "I said I was driving to the clinic, not attending a parade." Foster's eyes lowered toward the folder. Walter continued. "And he told me plenty of people lie about military service to get sympathy." Maya looked at Angela. The same pattern. Different person, Different place, same certainty. Walter's voice weakened slightly. I got angry. He paused. Not loud, but angry. He looked at Maya, and that was enough. Reeves documented Walter as hostile and evasive. Walter later filed a complaint. There was no clear video capturing the full exchange. Reeves denied mocking his service. Walter's complaint became a disagreement in tone, then an administrative phrase. Communication problem. Closed. I got the letter in the mail, Walter said. 3 paragraphs. He smiled without humor. Said they couldn't substantiate my account. Angela's jaw tightened. What did you do? Nothing. Walter's eyes moved toward the wall. What was I supposed to do? Maya thought of South Park. The phones. Rachel. James. Angela walking through the entrance. Walter had had none of that. No audience that changed its mind. No coin. No uniform appearing at exactly the right moment. Just his word against a badge. I stopped talking about it, Walter said. He rubbed one thumb across the handle of his cane. Started thinking maybe I had made too much of it. Maya's chest hurt at the sentence. That was what Reeves had nearly done to her. Not simply embarrassed her. Made her question whether the humiliation was somehow her own fault. Walter looked at Angela. Then you stopped for me. Angela's expression softened. Walter continued. You didn't ask what I did before deciding whether I deserved help. Didn't ask what I owned. Didn't ask if I could prove anything. He glanced toward Maya. Then I saw that video. Silence filled the room. I recognized him before anybody said his name. Walter's hands tightened, and I watched your daughter stand there calmer than I had managed to be. Maya shook her head. You didn't do anything wrong. Walter looked at her. I know that now. The words came slowly. That's the difference. Foster opened the folder. Mr. Price, if you proceed, your complaint will become part of the reopened investigation. You may be asked for a formal recorded statement. Walter nodded. I'll give one. Angela spoke gently. You don't have to do this for us. Walter turned toward her. I'm not. Then he looked at Maya. I'm doing it because she stood there and told the truth when somebody with more authority told the whole room not to believe her. His eyes shone. And maybe if I speak now, the next person won't have to wait for somebody important to walk through a door before anyone listens. Maya lowered her gaze. For the first time since South Park, the humiliation felt connected to something larger than herself. Not fame. Not revenge. Permission. Permission for people like Walter to try again. Captain Foster closed the folder. Then we'll take your statement. Outside the building later, evening settled over Charlotte in pale blue light. Angela and Maya stood beside the car while traffic moved steadily beyond the parking lot. Maya looked at the brass coin on her bag, then at her mother. I want to go back. Angela frowned. To the store? Yes. You don't have to. I know. Then why? Maya thought of the shoebox sliding back onto the shelf, of Laura looking at Reeves's badge before looking at her, of the crowd waiting for proof before deciding she deserved to be heard. She thought of Walter opening a letter that told him his experience could not be substantiated. I don't want that aisle to be the last place I remember feeling small. Angela watched her carefully. I can come with you. Maya nodded. I want you there. Then she paused. But not beside me. Angela understood. Maya looked toward the road, where headlights were beginning to appear one by one. No crowd, no uniforms, no one speaking for me. Her hand closed around the strap of her canvas bag. I want to walk back in there myself. And for the first time, returning to South Park did not feel like going back to the place where Maya had been humiliated. It felt like choosing what the place would mean next. 4 days later, Maya Brooks walked through the same glass doors. The store looked exactly as it had before. Bright white lights, polished floors, rows of expensive jackets arranged by color, the faint smell of rubber from the shoe department, a scanner chirping somewhere near the registers. Nothing in the building remembered what had happened. Maya did. Rachel walked beside her. Angela followed several steps behind them, dressed this time in dark jeans, a simple navy sweater, and comfortable shoes. No uniform. No ribbons. No green beret. Maya had asked for that. Angela had understood. At the entrance to the shoe department, Maya stopped. Her breathing changed. Rachel noticed. You okay? Maya looked toward the wall. The $180 running shoes were still there. Same model, same white sole, same little price card. For a second, she could hear Reeves again. Probably better you spend that money on something realistic. Her fingers tightened around the strap of her canvas bag. The brass coin tapped softly against the buckle. Angela stopped behind her. She did not touch Maya, did not tell her to be brave. She simply waited. Maya breathed in, then walked forward. Laura Bennett came out from behind the service counter. She had known Maya was returning, but she looked more nervous than Maya expected. There was no corporate lawyer beside her, no security guard, no carefully arranged crowd. Just Laura. Maya, hi. Laura glanced toward Angela, then Rachel. Angela remained near the entrance exactly as Maya had requested. Laura looked back at Maya. I owe you an apology. Maya said nothing. Laura folded her hands. I've replayed that afternoon 100 times. Her voice was quieter than it had been when she asked Maya to leave. I keep thinking about the moment Officer Reeves showed me his badge. Maya watched her. I stopped listening after that. Laura swallowed. I thought I was keeping the store calm. I told myself I was being practical. She looked toward the shoe aisle. But I wasn't neutral. The admissions settled between them. I trusted his authority before I checked his story. And because of that, I treated you like the problem. Maya felt the old pain stir. She let herself feel it. Then she asked, would you have apologized if my mother hadn't walked through that door? Laura's face changed. There was no easy answer. Finally, she said, I don't know. Maya nodded. That's the part that matters. Laura lowered her eyes. Yes. She took a breath. The company reviewed the surveillance footage. All of it. They also reviewed how I handled the incident. Maya waited. We're changing the policy. Laura explained that employees responding to disputes would now be required to hear each party independently whenever circumstances allowed, document the basis for removal, and never automatically treat an off-duty badge, title, or professional status as proof that one person's account carried more weight. Laura herself had been placed through additional management training. I should have known better before a policy told me, she said. Maya appreciated that more than the policy, because rules could change procedures. Only people could change themselves. Laura looked toward the shoe wall. The company would also like to give you the shoes. Maya almost smiled. No, thank you. They're already authorized. I know. You wouldn't owe us anything. I know that too. Laura looked confused. Maya touched the strap of her bag. I saved for them. 4 months. Small amounts put aside after tuition, after bus fare, after groceries, after the little expenses that always seemed to arrive before payday. The shoes had never been about getting something expensive. They had been about proving to herself that patience could eventually become something tangible. I want to buy them. Laura nodded slowly. All right. Maya walked to the wall. She found her size, opened the box. The tissue paper rustled beneath her fingers. Rachel smiled. Still like them? Maya slipped one on. She looked down. Yeah. Angela watched from the entrance. Her smile was small. Maya bought the shoes herself. The receipt slid from the register with a mechanical whisper. Maya folded it and tucked it into her bag beside the brass coin. No applause followed. She preferred it that way. Outside, evening light spilled through the tall mall windows. Before they reached the doors, Angela's phone rang. She looked at the screen. Captain Rebecca Foster. Angela answered. Maya watched her expression. Yes. A pause. I understand. Another pause. Thank you for telling us. Angela ended the call. Rachel asked first. What happened? Angela looked at Maya. Professional Standards has moved Reeves into formal disciplinary proceedings. Maya said nothing. The prior complaints remain under review. Walter gave his recorded statement yesterday. Other people have come forward after learning those cases were reopened. How many? They didn't give me a final number. Maya looked down at the shoebox in her hands. So he could lose his job? Angela chose her words carefully. That decision belongs to the process. What matters is that the complaints are being examined together now, instead of disappearing one at a time. Maya nodded. She was surprised by what she did not feel. No joy, no hunger to see Reeves humiliated, only relief that the next person might be heard sooner. That evening, Maya did not celebrate at a restaurant. She went to Morning Star Community Kitchen. Warm yellow light filled the old dining room. Steam clouded the kitchen windows. Silverware clinked against plates while adults talked over bowls of stew, cornbread, and coffee. Evelyn Carter, 68, sat near the window. Walter Price was 2 tables away. James Walker had volunteered to help serve. When Maya entered carrying the shoebox, Evelyn smiled. There she is. Maya laughed softly. Here I am. She changed into the new running shoes before her shift. James noticed. You bought them? Every dollar. He smiled. Good. Then his expression became serious. Maya, there's something I owe you. She looked at him. James dried his hands on a towel. I recognized that coin before I spoke. I know. His eyes lowered. I should have said something sooner. The kitchen noise continued around them. Maya remembered those first minutes. James watching. Everyone watching. Reeves growing bolder because nobody stopped him. Why didn't you? James took his time answering. Because I spent a lot of years learning that challenging the wrong person at the wrong moment can cost you. Maya nodded. She understood that answer more now than she would have a week earlier. James looked at her. But being afraid explains silence. It doesn't always excuse it. Maya glanced toward Walter, then toward Evelyn, then back at James. Then next time, speak before the powerful person walks through the door. James smiled sadly. I will. Angela had heard them from nearby. She said nothing. She only smiled. Maya bent beneath one of the folding tables and tied her new shoes. As she stood, the scratched brass coin swung from her canvas bag and caught the warm kitchen light. For days, people had treated that coin as proof. Proof Angela had served. Proof Maya had told the truth. Proof Reeves had been wrong. But Maya finally understood something. The coin had never created the truth. Angela's uniform had not created it either. The recordings had not created it. And the crowd's belief had certainly not created it. The truth had existed when Maya stood alone beside the shoe wall. Her dignity had existed when people laughed. Walter's service had been real when his complaint was dismissed. James's knowledge had mattered before he found the courage to speak. Human worth did not appear when authority finally recognized it. It had been there all along. Maya? She turned. Walter held an empty plate. Think you've got another one of those? Maya smiled. For you? Absolutely. She carried his plate toward the serving line. Behind her, Angela watched her daughter move beneath the soft yellow lights in the shoes she had bought with her own money. Not rescued, not rewarded, restored. Maya filled another plate and carried it toward someone who needed it, and the little brass coin swung gently at her side, not as proof of rank, not as proof of power, as a reminder. Sometimes the person being doubted has nothing to prove. Sometimes the person holding the power is the one who needs to learn how to listen. And sometimes the most important person in the room is not the one who finally walks through the door. It is the one who chooses to speak before that door ever opens. If you had been standing in that silent crowd before Angela arrived, would you have spoken up? Maya's truth was already true while she stood alone beside those $180 shoes. Her mother's arrival only forced everyone else to finally face it, and by walking back into that same store to buy those shoes with her own money, Maya refused to let humiliation decide how her story would end. The lesson here is that silence is not always neutral when someone is being unfairly discredited in front of us. Sometimes the person with the most authority controls the room simply because everyone else waits for someone else to speak first. So today, if you see someone being dismissed while everyone around them stays quiet, you don't need a badge, a title, or a perfect speech. Simply say, I saw what happened. Maya should never have needed her mother to walk through that door before someone gave her that basic support. If you had been there before Angela arrived, what would you have said? Tell me in the comments. Because the next story begins with another ordinary person everyone thinks they already understand, until one small detail changes everything.